So my name is Kevin Flatow. I'm currently a school counselor at Helena Middle School at 1025 Rodney Street. I've been a school counselor here for 6 years, 10th year being a school counselor overall. Kind of other things I do is I coach football at Helena High, freshman all the way through varsity football. So kind of back and forth over to Helena High a couple blocks. Coach track here at the Helena Middle School here in the spring coming up. And then I do some referee work too, college and high school basketball, refereeing, a little bit in the winter as well. I kind of go from season to season and some of it overlaps. But the fortunate thing is it's all things that I love to do. I love the coaching. I love the referee part of it. That's kind of my own. That's more personal, but it's still giving back to the game and giving back to the community. And then of course, I love my role here at HMS, getting to be a school counselor and getting to be around kids and getting to watch them grow from really children in sixth grade coming into full-blown adolescence. As you know, you have a couple at home by the time they leave eighth grade, and just to see them grow and evolve, it's a really cool thing, and to be a part of their journey, I think. One of the things I love about the east side of Helena in general is, you know, the majority of our kids, probably 90%, come from one of 5 different feeder schools. And I think, you know, we're right in the middle of our extravaganza where I'm meeting my future HMSers, 5th graders for the first time. And each school has a distinct kind of culture, a distinct kind of style about them. And so, you know, I had Central School here today, which was super cool. And I had my brick that kind of sits as my paperweight on my middle island, and the first thing that I talked about was, anybody know what this is? Obviously it's a brick, you know, and then ultimately one of the kids was, when I said, well, where do you think I got it from? And, you know, those kids are old enough to know you got it from the old Central School. And so I had a really good time kind of mixing it up with the Central School kids today. But yeah, Central School is where I went to elementary school. I went to Helena Middle School. I went to Helena High School, and have fond memories of Central School. And it's extra special to get to kind of learn those kids, because, you know, kids that come from Central School or from Rodney area or South Central or that part of Helena, something about the culture, something about the family, something about the diversity as well. There's just a certain distinct style about them, along with the Jefferson kids and the Smith kids and the Bryant kids and the Warren kids. They all have their own little flavor. And then it's really cool to see by 7th grade how they've kind of intermingled and found other kids that are very similar culture, values, interests to them. You know, when I think about the Central kids, I think about, number one, diversity. You got a little bit of everything, because you got kids that come from maybe lower income housing up by the Guardian Apartments, or Hill Tower, or some different areas of there where you've got some very affluent people as well. You know, probably the more notable people that have came from Central School has been Governor Bullock's kids. All 3 of them have came through our building. And then you've just got like a middle ground of lots of different families. And I would say the distinct feature of them are people that value community, people that value the arts. I think people that value location and probably an active lifestyle. But I would say the one factor when I think about Central kids is they come in, they're just kind of their own people, and they're their own young human beings, and they're kind of unafraid to be who they are. They've just got kind of their own style, and they're unapologetic about it. And they're just kids that feel very comfortable in their own skin. And maybe that's why I relate with those kind of kids, because I try to be very authentic and very transparent of who I am, and I try to be exactly who I am. And it seems like that's kind of the kind of kids and families that you got that come from Central area. You know, I think growing up, I wasn't really old enough to understand a lot of these things. Now that I'm an adult, and then specifically having the background in education of being a school counselor and studying, you know, family systems, and studying individual psychology, and studying culture, studying subgroupings of people, and then just having a greater view of the world. I think I understand it better now than when I was a kid. I think when I was a kid, I was just like, you know, I would roll up Rodney Street to Central School every day, and, you know, I had friends that lived on, you know, one of my best friends grew up on Ewing Street, 1 block away. One of my best friends grew up on 8th Avenue. I had 2 kids that grew up on Rodney Street, you know, one on each side of State Street, upper Rodney. And I had a kid that grew up on Raleigh Street. So those were like all my buddies, and so it was just, that's what we did. We'd hop on our bike, meet up here at HMS, meet up at Central, meet up at somebody's house, and ride our bikes and play football and play basketball. And we all came from from very similar like backgrounds and very similar homes. And so I think that that's just all we ever knew. Now that I'm a little bit older and I have that education and I have that background and I get to see it play out here for 6 years now, it comes more and more into focus, I think, for me. Just the different subgroups of kids that we get that ultimately come together in an awesome melting pot here at Helena Middle School, and then it kind of takes off from there. I mean, I think of Rodney, and if you look back at the history of Helena, I mean, Helena really started in the Gulch. A lot of people that come from out of town like hate how our city's laid out with the streets when I have friends that come in from out of town. I think a lot of that came from how Helena originated up in the Gulch with the gold mining back in the day. You know, I think when I think of Rodney, I think of it as like a main thoroughway. It's kind of the heartbeat of the city in a way. You know, it's right off of downtown. That was one of the coolest things, I think, with growing up and going to Central School. Being out at recess and being able to look out over downtown, and then the new Central School is just absolutely amazing. But I just think of that as kind of like the heartbeat of the city. You've got people that value certain things that live up in South Central off of Rodney, Davis, Beatty, up in that area, south of Broadway, that value the trail system, that value being active. And then you've got the downtown there where that work-life balance, I think. I just think of the Rodney area as being kind of, you know, the heartbeat of the city, the main thoroughway down to HMS. I love how HMS is in the middle of all of it and all the feeder schools come in. I think the mature landscaping, I think is awesome. I love in the fall or the spring, like looking up Rodney Street and just seeing all the trees that are almost like touching at the top. I remember walking home as a kid and like in the fall, like jumping on the leaves, and I just think the aesthetics and the mature landscaping, and some of the houses as well. I think there's some houses that are on the registry that have like historical significance to it. So I just think that there's so many. It's such an eclectic neighborhood that there's so many cool things going on that it's really hard to just pinpoint one or two. As I hear myself talk about it, it just seems like there's eclectic reasons of why, you know, the Rodney part of South Central Helena is it's just got a lot of cool things and significance to it, especially if you grew up in that area and you spent a lot of time in that area.